Mace beat Palpatine, according to George Lucas, fair and square. He mopped the floor with him, actually. Now, if Yoda was the all-powerful Grand Master, why was it that Mace had such an easier time with Palpatine? Let's break it down and discuss a bunch of different reasons. The main truth is that Yoda was very strong, but he was also old and he was very short. While these were some complications that were overridden by his Force powers to sustain him, in the end, it wasn't really enough. Now, Mace used Vapod and Yoda didn't. This was because, according to him, it was a form that drew the user too close to the dark side, at least too close for his comfort. Now, Mace was proficient in the 7th form, and of the 7th form, he created a variant. This variant was called Vapod. For those who don't know, it harnessed the dark side of their enemy's powers and channeled it like a funnel back onto themselves through the user. Sidious was all dark side energy. He was even referred to as the Shadow in Revenge of the Sith, at least in the novel, I mean. It really doesn't get more dark than that. Vapod saved Windu, and that's something that Yoda could have used to his advantage, but he didn't. How it kind of worked was basically the stronger the dark side energy was being thrust onto him, he would just throw it back onto the enemy, that much harder. While Yoda was versed in all the lightsaber forms, he wasn't all that versed in the 7th form, at least not as much as Windu was. Not to mention, the sheer height and power Mace would attack with was difficult to defend on its own, let alone coupled with his skill and Force affinity. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is Yoda's age. He's no spring chicken. He was around 850 years old in Revenge of the Sith, where he used a cane to walk, and times that he didn't, he would use a levitating pod to get around. Yoda had to use a great deal of Force valor in order to sustain his old bones and movements. This was a very old Force power for old Force users and Jedi alike. This helped him jump around using the Ataru fighting style that he mastered so well to make up for his height. All of this requires lots of energy, and it drained him as the fight went on. Now, that said, Yoda still put up an amazing duel against Sidious, who tried to run away a few times. The first time being here, and the second time when he disengaged lightsaber combat to get distance and throw Senate pods at Yoda. In the end, the fight would have continued if Yoda had better ground. Ironic, it comes to the better ground once again. He was on the edge of the pod when the explosion happened, whereas Sidious was inside, giving him a better advantage over being blown back. Ultimately, in the end, Yoda said to himself in the novelization that he had failed and wasn't strong enough to defeat Palpatine. I think if the fight were in an open arena, it would still be hard to say. I mean, Yoda would have to use his Force valor very cautiously and end it earlier than later, so as he wouldn't drain his powers, which Sidious knew all too well about, dragging on the fight as long as he could to drain Yoda's power. Now, about their lightsaber fighting styles, Form 4 was very heavy on acrobatics and jumping and flipping through use of the Force. Now, that of course would tire Yoda out a lot, especially at his age.